At 1:12 a.m., South Carolina 911 dispatchers began receiving frantic calls. Witnesses reported screaming, chaos, and violence in the parking lot of a roadside motel. When officers arrived, they found a woman lying on the pavement with multiple stab wounds. Inside, her husband sat calmly on the edge of a bed, his shirt covered in blood. His mistress was nowhere to be found. This was not a random act of violence. This was betrayal, planned and executed with chilling precision. Just days earlier, Mark and Alyssa Carter, a married couple from Atlanta, Georgia, had booked a quiet beach house on the South Carolina coast. Friends said it was Alyssa's idea, a chance to reconnect, to repair a marriage that had grown distant. On social media, the Carters painted the picture of a loving couple trying to find their way back to each other. Beach sunsets, smiles, hashtags about love and second chances. But behind the filters, something darker was unraveling. On their third night at the beach house, Mark told Alyssa he needed some time to clear his head. He claimed he was going for a late-night walk along the beach. Instead, he got in the car and drove 45 minutes inland to a small roadside motel where Elise was waiting. Alyssa grew suspicious, anxious. She opened a shared iCloud account on her phone and checked Mark's location. He wasn't by the beach at all, but parked outside a cheap motel off the highway. With dread in her chest, Alyssa got into the car and followed. Minutes later, 911 calls flooded in. Witnesses described a violent altercation in the motel parking lot. When police arrived, Alyssa was found on the ground, stabbed multiple times, unresponsive. Mark sat inside the room, eerily calm, his hands and shirt covered in blood. Elise was gone. At first, investigators believed the obvious, that Alyssa had stormed into the motel in a jealous rage and attacked. But forensic evidence told a very different story. The knife came from the motel's kitchenette. Elise's fingerprints were on the handle. Security footage showed Alyssa arriving after Mark had already entered the room. She hadn't come to fight. She had come searching for answers. And then investigators found the messages. Days before the trip, Mark texted Elise, "She's a problem," but not for much longer. Mark Carter was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy. 3 days later, Elise turned herself in and faced charges of second-degree murder. Prosecutors argued that Mark manipulated Elise, carefully orchestrated Alyssa's death, and used her suspicions to lure her into a trap. Elise's defense painted a different picture, a woman convinced that Alyssa was violent, unstable, and dangerous because that's what Mark told her. In the end, Mark was sentenced to life without parole. Elise accepted a plea deal and was sentenced to 18 years in prison. What began as a hopeful beach vacation became a stage for betrayal and murder. A wife searching for truth, a husband weaving lies, and a mistress caught in the middle of a deadly game. Sometimes, the people we trust most are the ones we should fear.